go. Let's go. Alrighty. There we go. I got some music playing. I got my lighting. Some of you are going to be coming in pretty soon, and we're going to get started. I am getting my audio levels ready. It's Wednesday afternoon. It's a big day. Excuse me. As some of you know, I'm recovering or coming back down to earth after a little trip into La La Land, aka the world of general anesthesia, aka the world of surgery. It was interesting, and honestly, if you saw my video on Sunday, I probably just was under a lot of drugs and was able to make it out there and do a report that was not advisable. I would tell people don't do that if you're recovering from surgery. But because just so excited about the very minimal amount of sports that we have going on in the world, I always, you know, want to say something. So it's Wednesday and it's time again. And we have a lot to talk about because today, obviously, big news for University of Hawaii fans. If you're a fan of non-football, so University of Hawaii, a part of the Big West Conference for non-football sports, and that conference has decided to push its fall sports at least to the spring, or if not pushed indefinitely, which is really a tough thing to think about, is not having sports in the fall. And obviously COVID, the pandemic, is continuing to be the cause of all of this, is continuing to be the reason that we aren't able to be back to normal. So hopefully we can get the rest of the dominoes. So the Big West, consider it one of the dominoes. We're hoping for our season and for our players, and I'm so excited for football always at this time, and it's a little bit of a, yeah, it's hard to think about. And also what I want to talk about later, NFL, because I talk about, well, let's look at the pros. Let's look at how they do. And the NFL having some hiccups as they get going. And one player opting out. And this player has a very special place in my heart. So I'm going to show you what this particular player did earlier this year. You might remember.
Now 2nd and 6. Williams makes a cut and will roll into the end zone for the touchdown. No flags. Take a look and make sure that he didn't step out, which clearly he does not. Anthony Sherman.
Okay, so that was obviously Damian Williams. Damian Williams can barely talk. That was such a great play. For me personally, for me as Wayne, not just Hawaii sports fans, but Hawaii sports fans was there. So I want to show you what my view was, actually, from the game. So let's see what I got to see, which is really awesome.
Go! 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 Go!
Not just in my football life, but in my life, because that was really cool to be there at the Super Bowl and to witness that play. But, you know, all plays are really cool to witness at the Super Bowl. I've been so grateful to go to 5 Super Bowls. I've always just wanted to go to one when I was a kid, and to be able to go to 5 now has been awesome. But in going to 5, I've learned so many lessons. I've taken a lot of financial lessons along the way, because going to Super Bowl is a really difficult thing. Just to be straight up with you, you have to pay a lot of money. You have to go to the right people and trust the right people. And I had to work with other people, and some people that I trusted that didn't work out, and I had to learn the hard way. And that's a part of going to a Super Bowl. That's why so few people do Super Bowl packages. That's why the NFL just does an NFL experience and just inflates the price themselves, because they're like, we're the safest, and they're right. It is. If you just go through them, it's the safest. But because I've learned all lessons myself, and because I just love going to the Super Bowl, and it doesn't matter as long as I get in the game, as long as I can be there, a part of that energy, I always feel so just rewarded of all the times that I might have got stiffed, or might have just like put my energy and my money into something that didn't work out, because this company is everything, a part of myself in terms of my expression of what I love to do, and I put that in all the tours that I do. I put that in all of my relationships, and that's the most important thing, because you want to vibe with me, Wayne Coito, because I'm there on all the tours and we have fun, and my energy is about having fun, and my energy is about doing things that push boundaries and push us to see where we can be as sports fans, as people from Hawaii. I'm proud to be from Hawaii. That's why I call it Hawaii Sports Fans. I'm a sports fan at my core, and that's why it's Hawaii Sports Fans, because it is an expression ultimately of who I am and what I do. It's not all I do. I do a lot of things. I love a lot of parts of my life, and I love all the people that I've met along the way. So, sorry, I'm a little bit just recovering and just being in July, and just realizing that football is an unpredictability right now, but it's not looking too good. So, going through some old highlights, seeing just how fun it is again, and that's what it is. It's all about fun. It's about just being there in the stands, but it's about experiencing the smells, the sights, the relationships with just the people that you're there to cheer with, the people that you're there to cheer against. That's the experience that is that story that I am trying to tell through my service, I think, that I'm providing. I think it's a great service, honestly, because I think my lens as a sports fan is really unique, and I think it is pure. I think it is really something that is based mostly on what I really love, which is going to games and being there in the stands. So 5 Super Bowls. I'm looking to go to 6 at Super Bowl 55 in Tampa. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, send me a message, send me a personal Facebook, whatever. Let's build that relationship, because I can guarantee anybody that I've taken to the Super Bowl, they've had an amazing time. And it's not just the game itself. The game itself is so awesome. And if you're a true fan of the NFL, not to say you're not, but for me, who just you know, like those people that really love Disney, and I actually really, really like Disney, actually, kind of, probably like Disney cartoons and stuff, and the you know, I sing a lot of the songs. I love Disney, but if there was a sports land like a Disneyland that is a Super Bowl, that is going to the Super Bowl experience, which we always go to in all of our tours, because it's to immerse into that world of being around the people that you grew up watching, around that game that you grew up watching with your family. So a lot of that is tied into the story, and that's what the story of the NFL. Of course, the NFL has a lot of stories that have to do with money and other things that are not having to do with the game itself, and that's just a part of life. And that's why I love the NFL, because it's a true story. There are rules. Both teams play by it for the most part, and we never know what to expect. And this year is no different. We never know what to expect this year as well. But that play, as you saw, for me personally, Damian Williams, that was the nail in the coffin for our Chiefs' comeback to win Super Bowl 54, the last NFL game to be played, which I got to be at. And that was the best game of my life, the very best game. And I've been to so many games where I'm like, it can never get better than this. No way, it can never get better than this. And it always does. It always does. Something happens. Like Damian Williams breaking around the corner for a 38-yard. Nail in the coffin. Chiefs win the Super Bowl. Right? They give you the chicken skin, because I always give myself chicken skin again. Living, excuse me, in that moment. And Joanna, who I see is watching as well, she lived that moment as a Patriots fan at Super Bowl 49, seeing a certain interception on the end zone and the goal line for the Patriots to beat the Seahawks. And as a fan, it's crazy to be like that emotionally connected sometimes. You would think it is kind of nuts, right? Like, because I really, 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 really love the NFL, like a lot, like so much. It's crazy, and I think a lot of you do too. You love football, and that's why. Joanna crying emojis. Yes, the tears are very real. Also, tears of sadness. I had some tears of sadness recently. I think in Boise, losing the championship. But that's what the game brings to us. So when I talk about the things that I talk about when football season, can we have a season? All of these things are tied into that. All of our emotional attachments to each other, our other fellow fans, to the game itself, and that's if you're watching on TV, if you're traveling with us, if you're there at the games, you can still have that attachment, right? That emotional connection. So I think that's something that a lot of people miss. But Damian Williams, one of the guys that opted out, as did former UH player Leo Kolomatangi, who's doing some great work with COVID and tracing. So go look that up. I think it's like COVID Hawaii for Zero or something. So, doing good work. But the point is, NFL players are now opting out, which I think is going to represent a trend. I don't think a lot of players are, but the tide is pushing in one direction, right? So, and then Damian Williams not the only Chiefs starter, Super Bowl defending champion Chiefs starter. Lawrence Duvernay-Tardif, also doctor, a medical doctor, wanting to stay in his native Canada and Quebec and stay on the front lines and help there. And I think that's going to be something. It'll be like maybe like the wars, right? Like when we think about like during the wars when players would like skip out on seasons and serve in the war or something. I mean, this is a pandemic. There's a war that we're all fighting, a battle, and some of us closer than others. Russ, mahalo. He says, good to see you up and around. Wayne must be feeling better. I do feel better. Thank you. I thank you. I'm glad that I do feel a little bit better. But I do, just like you, just like Russ, who's a huge football fan. Russ is a big football fan, and he loves being on the field. And somebody like Russ, I know, photographers and those who are auxiliary members like myself, like fans, we might not be in the game, might not be on the line, we might not even know what's going on, what play is being called. We're not that intimately tied into the game, but we are in so many ways, and emotionally definitely is one of them. And for people that are fans, we're the ones that are always there every year. Players come through, coaches come through, administrators come through, presidents come through, but fans stay forever, and they pass it on to the next. So, Joanna says, gosh, I don't blame them. Yeah, I don't blame them as well. I think a lot of players are justified in deciding that they want to opt out because it's a difficult decision to play, given that you don't know how you would react if you got it, right? I mean, it's hard to tell somebody, like, there's a chance that you might get sick and this might happen or whatever that might happen, but, like, it's not really up to you to be like, you can deal with it, right? Like, it's fine, right? Like, everybody is going to react to it differently, so it is what it is. It's all about juggling risk, and at the NFL level where there's a lot of money at stake, they're gonna have more money to mitigate risk and to fight it, whereas in college, not really. So back to that, the Big West pushing the fall sports, at least possibly. So they said that basketball could start in November potentially if everything's working out, but fall sports might be able to start in the spring. So we'll never know. The hardest part is funding all of this. Like, that'll be the difficult part that we're all, maybe the rest of this year is taken care of, but there will definitely be ramifications. You go back to my interview with Bob Hogue last week, Commissioner of the Pac-West, and the Pac-West also deciding last week to suspend fall sports as well to January 1st, at least 2021. So the ball's already rolling, right? And if we're making our way up the ranks, the D2 conferences, the Ivy League, what's next is those mid-majors. They're on the docket next. And Craig Thompson, was reached out to, I guess, as well today, the commissioner of the Mountain West. And he acknowledged that he saw something like this happening, and by this he means the ACC. The ACC put out a schedule today that includes Notre Dame. So Notre Dame could win the ACC conference if this all happens. It almost feels like we're being set up really for failure, and that's why it's hard to like get invested in some of these things, which are great on the face of these, and I would like it in any other scenario, but it's so hard to be able to imagine these, us moving forward right now, at least at the college level, because like we said from the very beginning, I had a very stark outcast on the season from April when I started doing the show, because just as how poorly we were doing with the virus back then. And I'm hoping I'm wrong, of course. I would love that we could find protocols, but the protocols have to be so strict, like the NBA bubble. That's why the NBA is so committed. Their commissioner is so committed to doing what's right for everybody, all the players involved, that they are committed to this bubble and calling out players who go and get chicken wings at strip clubs in Atlanta or whatever, the most famous strip clubs in Atlanta, or whatever they were doing. He was doing at Magic City. But when we talk about the importance of having a bubble, parameters that keep people from infecting other people, it's so important, because let's just look at case B, which is obviously Major League Baseball, which right now doesn't know what to do. Like, bro, we saw this one coming. And it is what it is. And like I said in many shows before, this exposes rifts. This amplifies the need to be more aware as a player, as labor, as an owner during your collective bargaining. Not that we expected some catastrophic event. Actually, we probably should have, given how the last 5 years have gone for the world. But where we are right now is not a bad place it shouldn't be for pro leagues, because they have so much money, they have so much cash that they can just play right now. So let's look at pros, but they got to commit to some kind of parameter, some kind of bubble, something that's going to be a little bit more fail-proof or safe-proof, because letting guys just go willy-nilly out and whatever. And for Major League Baseball, I mean, just traveling, like just the exposure, it's just so hard to prevent, especially now that the virus is so widespread. I just don't see that one happening. So Major League Baseball, at this point, I would say I don't see them finishing the season, but who knows? I mean, would you want a season in which your whole team just got sick, or somebody got out, or somebody got really sick and hospitalized, or somebody died? I mean, it's possible somebody could die. Was it worth it? So I don't think baseball is committed enough. Manfred is the worst of all the commissioners, no doubt. He's the worst one, and he has to deal with his own issues about how he rules, how he governs. I shouldn't say rule. He is not a ruler, but how he governs Major League Baseball, and he's being exposed right now, and it looks bad, but we kind of saw it coming. But the good news is the NBA has done a great job, phenomenal job for what they are. And that's why the NBA continues to be the leaders and continues to be an example, especially in the movement, Black Lives Matter, but also in their commitment to making this happen, which requires a lot of testing, which requires a strict bubble. The players buying in, the players are all a part of it. And, we want to see it. The season started. The season is like way started already. We just want it to end. We want to see it happen. We want to see which LA team is going to win the championship. I'm kidding. Not kidding. You're kidding. But I think when you look at the NFL now, kind of stumbling off the blocks, kind of wondering where we're going to go from here, seeing the players now start to opt out tells me that they don't feel safe given the protocols that are in place currently. And that could sway things other way. Russ says, Hawaii has the best fans. Road Warriors are awesome. Love all you guys. Love getting pics of our fans as much as I love shooting the games. I've been involved with shooting several other teams, the NCAA, NFL. Nothing compares to Hawaii teams. Fans and Ohana. Nothing. All caps. And yes, Nothing does compare. What we have together as fans, when we go on the road, when we hang out, I think about my 50th straight game. I had 60 straight Hawaii games. We got to celebrate my 50th straight Hawaii game, home and away game, which was in Nevada, and Russ was there, and it was so fun. And it's more just being with your friends and being with the people that you truly do love, because those are the people that you get to have so many great memories with, and we get that from our sports memories. So this is all a big one sponge of memories, right? It's like all the places you eat, all the places that you go, all the places that you see, even not at the game itself. It's all a part of that experience, and that's the Hawaii sports fans experience. You know, that's what I do, and we've done it so many times with Hawaii football. And definitely go check us out, hisportsfans.com. Go check us out. I'm excited. Who knows when we'll go on our next Hawaii Sports Fans trip, but I'm going to be on the first trip. The first game that opens, I'm going to have a trip to. All right? Hold me to that. The first trip. Right? What part of the show? Okay. I don't remember that. So, whether it be... Because there was that, like, Field of Dreams game that was supposed to be in, like, Iowa. That would have been so cool. I would have loved to go to that. Or, like, a Hall of Fame game. So... I don't know. I don't know when life is going to be the same. I've been watching Last Chance U. Some of you have been probably watching Last Chance U. Actually, I had to finish the Indy. The second part of that, I totally forgot about that. So, Delaney College, if you're starting that now, we have sightings of an athlete from Netflix on the campus right now working out. So, go check on that. I'm sure... you know, it's a good story. I'm just getting started. I've seen all the other Last Chance U's. I love that series. But it also just kind of makes me think, like, man, when are we going to get back on the field and watch games and do all those same stuff? Joanna says, fingers crossed for the NBA and their bubble. I'm still determined to getting the virtual fans. Yes, so the NBA, I think the bubble, we do have to keep our fingers crossed. Because still nothing is totally, completely 100% safe-proof, right? Like, you have to, you know that there are some risk involved in trying to keep a bubble and trying to make the bubble work. But quite honestly, when we talk about the bubble and how it isn't, you can, if you have enough people, you have a finite amount of people, you can make it work. You can identify everybody that comes in and out. You know, like, it's not that tough, especially if you have the money, because everybody's going to go back to, like, oh, it's so expensive to do all the testing, and it is. In my industry, right, we're trying to, as an actor, trying to production. I know there's a big commercial we're talking about coming up very soon, a big ad campaign, and you know, a lot of them. I'm not just saying any particular one. There are a lot of people who are trying to get off the ground, productions, right? And it's just hard because there's so many testing. And like you said, if it takes a while to get your test results back, how do you know if you haven't gotten infected in the days that you hadn't got your test results back? Like, clearly there are going to be loopholes. So nothing is going to be completely safe-proof. So for the game to take place on the court itself is a challenge. So the fans, us and the fans in the stands, I'm just hoping eventually we can. But we might be able to, as virtual fans, because that's what the NBA is going to do. The NBA is going to allow like 30 virtual fans, I think they said, and you can be on the screen. So it's like simultaneously watching the game. But you'd have to have like a super hard connection because like there's going to be that delay. Like there's like delay, right? Like it's not like we're instantaneously, like right now I'm talking and there's a delay. There's like, so in case I bring somebody on and they say something they're not supposed to say, I can quickly, you know, there's a delay. But that's not the reason. That's not the reason. The reason is because of just the latency, right? Of like going from one technology and going down fiber and into the air and whatever, back down to your phones or whatever. So there is a delay, but how they make that work out with the virtual fans will be interesting. So, but I would definitely love to be a virtual fan too. That'd be kind of cool. So Joanna, you have to figure out how we can do that. But yeah, so with the NBA getting ready to start, I'm pretty excited about that. I've been watching the NBA scrimmages, the NBA, and the players that are there. You know, they just seem so committed to like the structure, and that's what I think the NBA has as its strength, is really a really strong player union and just just like a collective vibe amongst the players themselves, like a respect to be able to move forward and do things together and make decisions as a body of athletes and players and capital stock really to these owners, but as people who carry a lot of clearly influence in the world, in society, on myself. I mean, how my players, I am as old as I am and now for my whole life, as long as I've been watching NBA, over 30 years of watching the NBA really closely and watching players, like I always have a favorite player, always. Probably my favorite player is Luka right now. I got his jersey. I love watching Luka Doncic plays for the Mavs, but it's just something about watching that game and the players that you know, even though Charles Barkley famously said that he was not a role model, we know that NBA players are, and they understand the mantle, and LeBron really understands that mantle, and that's why I respect LeBron James for that, and his ability to use his mantle. Cisco says, glad you're feeling better, Wayne. Thank you. I am feeling better, so. I mean, I'm probably going to, like, get back into bed after this, but I think there's a lot of exciting things to talk about, and we're all very excited, and that feeling of fall coming, especially football season, it's difficult with it kind of hanging in the air, but I expect some of the further dominoes to fall and for us to be able to get a better idea of what we'll do for UH football season. Because it's going to be tough. It's just tough. And even in Hawaii alone, let's be honest, we don't even know the quarantine is going to be extended. There's a very good chance it could be extended again. It's a very good chance, especially if the numbers are going up. Because if we're going to set the bar at a certain threshold for whether we have the quarantine, then and the numbers keep going up, then it's going to keep going pushed. That's just what's going to happen. So we have to be really cognizant of how government policy can affect or will affect these games. I don't think there's going to be a blanket. Excuse me. Maybe they're going to have a blanket. I mean, I can't see that. I can't see the state being like, okay, if we have the quarantine through October 1st now, we're just going to let teams from the mainland come in and not quarantine, and then, okay, you can just play our teams. Like, line up on the line of scrimmage, go head-to-head. Like, I don't think that's going to happen. Unless maybe they require some kind of testing. But even so, it's so hard to keep the bubble. We've already shown that it's hard to keep a bubble, period. Major League Baseball is just like, we're not even going to have a bubble. Who needs a bubble? The season starts. Already one team can't play a bunch of games. And more players from that team. And how many other teams did they infect? Or how many other players and other teams did they infect that might have already infected other players? It's like, it's hard. So you got to commit to a bubble. I think it's proven you got to commit to a bubble. So in the NFL, I just don't know. I think, even the NBA is talking about next season. The NBA is talking about next season having to have a bubble. Right? Kyle Kuzma. If you go check out Kyle Kuzma's text, I took a picture with Kyle Kuzma at a UH game, actually. UH versus Utah. Which reminds me, actually, another tangent story, which I want to tell. I saw Kyle Kuzma and Jakob Portal, his teammate at Utah. They were lifting at this gym in Manhattan Beach that I was lifting at. And I was like, oh my gosh, Jakob Portal. The guy that is not as famous as Kyle Kuzma. But still, Kyle Kuzma, I did take a picture with him later on at the UH versus Utah game at the Fullerton tournament, preseason tournament, not last year, but 2 years ago. Or was it last year? No, it was 2 years ago. I don't know. 2 years ago, I think. And Kyle Kuzma took a picture with me. But Kyle Kuzma said that come to Hawaii. We should go to Hawaii and bubble here. I'm totally there. That'd be great. I think, if I was in elected office, no doubt I'd be on the phone with the NBA right now talking about it. Especially now when we don't have to worry about we don't have to worry about the venue. Like, you could legit just do it at the convention center. So getting worked up now. Want to see the NBA here. Can you imagine? And we could. I think Kyle Kuzma, people laugh about that, but it's true. We could do that here. And we could do it on Oahu, and we could have the players quarantine. I mean, they could do it at Aulani. They could probably do it outline. Yeah, they could set up something at like Colina or something, like a court or something. That'd be cool. I mean, that's possible for the NBA season, because the NBA is talking about, like, they don't know what's going to happen, you know, for next year already. So, let's be honest, they're supposed to start. So it's like once the NBA season is over, they don't have that much time before they're going to start the next season already. So it's not like the virus is going to be gone then either. I'm down for it. I say we bring that NBA bubble to Hawaii. So Kyle Kuzma, I'm on board with that. We can make it work. Be another source of revenue for Hawaii if done right. And it starts a trend, hopefully, where Hawaii is a place for destination sports and for events, maybe one-off events, big events, with the Pro Bowl, but bigger than the Pro Bowl. I mean, we don't need. I'm not saying, of course, the Pro Bowl is what we are all weaned off of, right? That's our, you know, we had that, and then we were like, whatever, we lost that, and that was what we had in Hawaii. But we can bring so much more, so many more events. Who knows? Maybe a Super Bowl one day. Who knows? It's not out of the realm of possibility if done right. But also, I'm very optimistic. But with that being said, I think this year is going to give us a lot to reflect on. Give us a lot to think about in terms of how important football is. And when I say how important, it doesn't mean like how, oh my gosh, football is so important to me, which it is, of course, and we're crying not having a season. But how important it is money-wise as well to schools. How really important is it to their budgets to have that football team? Scary. Right? And something I talked about. Go back and watch the whole interview with Bob Hogue. We talked about it. And the future of college athletics is at stake with this as well. The future of college athletics at certain schools, the way that it's run, I mean, I could see a lot of schools dropping sports. Especially if we never get a chance to do the season. Because the revenue from the season, which is already going to be lost without fans, even if we try and rush the season, I don't know how they make it back. I mean, for TV, I guess, which is saying something, right? It's like, go on the field, even if the conditions are not optimal, go on the field and play football because we can get money from television, people watching it on television. But, you know, that's also just a reality. And I'm buying into this too. I'm invested in this, not just emotionally, but what I love in my life, what my finances are. They go into just the promotion of sports and the promotion of live action sports and being able to be there because it's that social part of it. I see a lot of my friends from LAFC who are soccer fans, and that's a newer part of my, I guess, arsenal of fan ships that I hold very dear to my heart as well, is LAFC and going to soccer games. But that's all a part of one thing, which is that commonality, that community that we all support and that we all prop up together. It's that common identity, and we lose that when we don't have sports, right? We lose that when we don't have it in the fans in the stands, but we also lose that when we don't even have it on the field. Talk about LAFC, because that's another league, the MLS, which stayed in a bubble, and we see it working. LAFC, moving on again. Where's my towel? LAFC towel. Oh, here it is. Dale, 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 black and gold. Okay. I'm so happy because I do have some sports, and that's LAFC. And they, you know, they're still in the tournament. They have a round knockout of 16. Now there's 8 teams left. They play Orlando City on Friday. They're going to win that game. And without the best player in the MLS, Carlos Vela. So, such a stacked team. I'm so lucky. See, it makes me appreciate having good teams that I get to follow, so I get to watch good sports. But the MLS doing it right. The MLS in their bubble doing it right. Keeping players safe. Keeping staff safe. Keeping the games played. You know? When they had that breakout with the Dallas FC players, or FC Dallas and what other team, it was like, bye-bye. Like, you couldn't even play. The whole team was gone. I'm so glad that wasn't LAFC, but that could have been. Can you imagine your team, like, can't even get on the field because your players, too many of them test positive, they just kick your whole team out of the tournament. And, You know, that's a weird place to be for Major League Baseball if they had to do that. And I don't know how many games they'll be able to push, because I know Major League Baseball wants to be able to just keep pushing games, right? And just like hoping that they can replay them some other time. But that's the difficult thing to be able to do. You can't just push games. So, yeah, I think that could be a very interesting place for, you know, for sports. Is if it is all televised, it is what it is, because soccer has still been fun. It's just been awesome to watch that, to have something to hold on to. But sports still brings that, and that commonality. Now we can share online, whatever. Can't be in person. Probably not going to be in person for a little while. Who knows? But let's get the games just going. So NFL, trying to stay optimistic, but the Major League Baseball has already proven that things are not that easy, obviously, especially without a bubble. In the absence of a bubble, you're going to have problems keeping any sort of containment, which has been proven already so many times. Oh, and hockey. Yeah, hockey too. PD is right. I'm so sorry. PD, Dr. Dub in there, dropping knowledge, because he's right. Hockey, too, I mean, and Canada not allowing the Blue Jays to play in Canada, clearly they knew what was coming, and it's like, duh. They're like, no, we're not going to let you like have your Americans fly in and out of Canada. Like, the whole point is to keep you guys out. And they've already been proven right. But because in hockey they have their bubbles, their bubbles are working for the most part. So, so interesting what we can see, and being able to watch that is awesome. But hockey is so fun to go to. We went to hockey games. We've been to a few hockey games on Hawaii Sports Fans. We even went to a minor league hockey game. Now that's fun. But is that experience? Is that fan interaction with the game? Whether it's people on the field, whether it's other fans, whether it's at the tailgate, because we know that's a lot of that experience right there. Just being in the tailgate, just being. I go back to just this year. So many great things I got to do this year alone in 2020. So many crazy things I got to do in 2020, but so many great sports memories I have just this year alone before sports was suspended. And not all of it has to do with the games. The games were amazing, but it was before and after. And that's what I try and bring to you every single time with Hawaii Sports Fans, because I just have that passion for going to places. I went to Mexico to watch LAFC play Leon. It was so fun. So fun. And that's just the stuff I like to do. So we should go to Mexico sometime. But I don't know about taking a whole group to Mexico. Maybe. Who knows? If that's the first place that opens up, that's where we're going. Because I said the first place that opens up. Hopefully back to Taiwan. That would be fun. I want to go back to Taiwan. I haven't taken a group to Taiwan yet, but I'd definitely take you guys back to that stadium. The Monkey Stadium in Taoyuan. Super fun. Shout out monkeys. Rakuten Monkey, Shishie. They actually are playing as well. You know, if you watch Taiwanese or Korean baseball, I did watch KBO for a little while. I stopped, kind of got off of that, but it's nice having Major League Baseball back, I will say for sure. Anyways, people can leave comments or questions. I want to make it another. We'll see how we go. But in terms of Hawaii Sports Fans, and what we're doing is here as well. Some of you might not know the story. About 8 years ago, I started taking people on crazy trips, including Bob Hogue. He came with us to our first trip, inaugural tour, end of August 2012. Started at the Padres, went to an Angels game the next night, went to a Dodgers game, and Shane Victorino was playing for the Dodgers, and we got to hang out with Shane Victorino after the game. And then we went to see UH play USC. We stayed in Hollywood, right on Highland and Hollywood Boulevard. We took Hummer limos to the airport. I haven't been doing that as much, the Hummer limos to the games and stuff. That was just an interesting thing, but that was pretty cool actually. But it's all about that experience. You know, it's those things that we talk about. It seems crazy, but a lot of those novel things, right? When I talk about like my trips to going to Lambeau Field, for instance, and go and check out some of my Friday flashbacks on Hawaii Sports Fans. That experience of being at Lambeau was amazing, but that experience eating that hamburger with the stick of butter cooked into it outside of Lambeau was just like still in my brain, such a crazy, unique experience. I was like, wow, who would do something like this? Someone who really likes lard, for sure. But it was good. Cisco says, let's roll to Cuba. PD says, are they playing major sports in Europe? Yeah, they are. So, like, the major soccer leagues are playing. So, major soccer leagues are playing. But, I mean, if the pros can do it. I mean, you look at New Zealand. I mean, they have fans in there. They have freaking hockey. It's hockey. They have rugby and fans. Like, thousands and thousands of screaming fans. Like, we're so far from that. That's so sad for us. But, I mean, we just need the games to go. Like, right now, I'm just like, we need to get the games going. And for the games to go, that's going to require us to be able to get, like, Major League Baseball. I mean, if they flunk out with this, I just don't see how NFL... I think it's going to make NFL so much harder to get going. Because it just shows just how difficult it is in the absence of a bubble to make anything work. Joanna says, hopefully tennis at the U.S. Open works out this year. It would be nice to watch. Yeah. So all the international trips. Yeah, I mean, in the international trips, if the international market opens up first, I think that'd be great to be able to do that. I know there's some bubbles that they're trying to open out. New Zealand, yeah, check out the All Blacks. We were there. I'm gonna bring up a video of me next time at the All Blacks talking in front of the stadium. Well, we went on that trip to... Joanna was on that trip. We went to Australia to watch UH play. Cal and Sydney. We went to New Zealand first. We went to Rotorua. Went to all over Aotearoa, and we saw we actually stayed right where the All Blacks in a house very close to the All Black Stadium, right in back of the All Black Stadium. It was pretty crazy, but they were out of town, so next time. So hopefully we do, but hopefully we can bring them in. You know, that's another thing. Hawaii sports fans, maybe we can be a part of that, bringing teams in. Like Kuzma says, we want to bring NBA to Hawaii. This is a perfect time. This is a perfect time to latch on to those kind of leagues who want that bubble, because the bubbles are working. It's proven that the bubbles work if you make them work. But yeah, so I started off this show talking about the Big West. So Wahine volleyball, that's going to be pushed. Obviously, we had a Wahine volleyball player already say, Helvig say that she wasn't going to come back. So, I mean, that kind of showed it as well. That it didn't look like it was, you know, in the cards for some of these student athletes, especially if that's the fly. And Bob talked about this. Bob Hogue. I'm going to keep referencing that one because that's a good... We talked about this. The nuances of the game are different for college athlete eligibility-wise, and especially if you're a foreign athlete. You're not going to fly all the way to the U.S. If your intent is to play sports and you don't have a season, you might never go back ever again. And Bob talked about that. So some of those guys... Those maybe we have some athletes in Hawaii, too, that never go back to wherever they're supposed to go because their teams don't play, and they end up staying here. So there's a lot, and that's going to affect a lot of sports going forward, just the sustainability of sports as well. PD says, NFL is so star player dependent, it could drastically change games if certain players sit out. Yeah, it could. I totally agree that. Because, especially, and the NFL has done a good job of cultivating all of these extraneous sports industries like fantasy, for instance. So maybe that, I don't know if it'll affect fantasy because people will watch or not watch because people want to get their points and play their leagues anyways. So maybe it won't matter there, but a lot of people want some of those stars to play. So yeah, it could potentially hurt, and that's why the NBA has tried to stop that from happening by the players meeting together, doing the Zooms. It's different. The NBA is way different. You know, it's not the NFL, and definitely the NFL players don't have that. I do think that Drew Brees is showing a lot of leadership right now, though, and he gets it, I think, and I'm really happy with the way that that story at least is turning for the better. I think Drew Brees is really taking a longer look into what he said, and that's important. That's important. But the NBA was at a different place before the pandemic. The NBA was already battling the Donald Sterling issue. They were already battling issues over collective bargaining that had to do with the way the players dress, and you know, it changed, right? The power struggle is still there, but it's changing. And the NBA and its commissioner, particularly Commissioner Silver, has been doing such a good job of being really open to the players and open to the owners and making it work. So when it comes to NFL, yes, you need those players to be playing, but it's hard when there's not that. I don't know if there's that same bond with like the stars. Like I don't think like Aaron Donald and J.J. Watt, like I don't know, like and Mahomes, like I'm sure like they all like agree on doing stuff together and they're all cool with each other. I'm sure, but I don't think they have that same like fraternity there that the NBA has that could help when it comes to player cohesion or player just being collectively behind the decision to either play or not, because they're moving forward with all the seasons, but the NFL still is not fulfilling a lot of demands, but they know that the players will still come. That's the reason, right? It's like you're still luring them in, but you're not going to satisfy everything. But the NFL players, the owners, they want to play. Everybody wants to play. The fans, we want them to play too, and that's what's pushing it right now. But ultimately, the players who are opting out right now may be sending a message to the rest of us, like they don't really see it happening. They just rather get it out of the way. Because a lot of people are just holding out hope, right? We're just, as fans as well. That's the same thing as with players. Like they're holding on hope. And they're playing. They're supposed to play in the game. And they don't even know for sure. So, when it comes to this season being fragmented by the loss of stars, we haven't seen it yet, but it's a possibility. Especially in the NFL, it's a possibility. Because the NFL is... it's a demanding sport anyways, like just period, and then adding on that extra level of stress is probably a lot, would be potentially a lot in terms of the psyche of players, like to have that always something you think about. I think the NBA players for the most part feel comfortable being in the bubble and feel like they're all committed to the structure. So I haven't seen that. I haven't seen players, and that's something I worried about too. I was wondering, like, are players going to be like more like just like, I don't know, just like more apprehensive about like posting up on other players, or just more cautious, like the way that they have, whatever. But I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that change at all, which is cool, because I think we don't want that to be a part of their psyche. We don't want them to be at all affected by the fact that there's potentially infection if someone just happened to be infected. But it's cool. It's watching the NBA and then like seeing them spread out on the sideline. It's kind of funny. It's kind of funny. It is, because they're like so far away from each other, but their arms are so long that it's like they can still like whatever. But I'm excited for that. I'm excited for the NBA. So I'm excited as a fan. I will say in April I wasn't as positive as we could have a football, but I want to be positive about it just happening, which would be, and I would be satisfied with it just happening, just to be able to watch. I'd be satisfied, even on television. But Commissioner Hogue did join us. I see him in there. But go and watch our interview with Commissioner Hogue. I mean, I think spells it out really well for the perspective from colleges and how they understand that there are so many factors. And that's one thing. There are so many factors involved, and not just factors about playing the game, but factors of what funds the games, what funds the people surrounding the games. And that is something that will have ramifications for years on. We'll have waves for several years. And that's something that is real and is a real risk. So the Big West and the Pac West last week, and Commissioner Hogue, the commissioner there, making the decision to suspend sports until January 1st, 2021, is still something that is not done easily. It's something that took a lot of took a lot of time, because so many factors were considered, and a lot of them were to mitigate the risk of not being able to have some of these sports potentially ever again if we can't fund them, and that's the reality. And we saw that in 2008. I was with the Pac West and Commissioner Hogue during our first recession, and or not first recession, just the recession we had in 2008. And that was around the time I graduated, so I knew what it was like to be a fresh kind of college grad and try to navigate the world, and seeing how difficult it was. But I mean, we pulled through that, and we'll be fine as well. We'll pull through this one as well. But there were programs that were cut, and there were schools that, and there were Division I programs that had to cut football. So it's definitely a reality, and it's definitely something that is frightening, because it's getting more real with every day. So the Mountain West, Craig Thompson said, seeing the ACC put out their schedule with Notre Dame, they don't have the exact dates yet, but I think they set a September 12th kind of target date to start, but even that is up to, those are ifs around that, and that is if the if the local health guidelines at the time allow for it. So there's still so many ifs, and I feel like Commissioner Hope must be relieved too, because as hard as it was to push sports, it is a relief to not have things kind of hanging out there, and it's a relief to be able to give the student athletes a chance to be able to make decisions too, because it's not fair to them to make them fly across the world. Some of them, they're in Europe and they're playing in America somewhere, in the U.S. somewhere, in Hawaii maybe, coming from Sweden as we had. It would be unfair for Hannah Helvig to have come all the way to Hawaii and then not be able to play her season, and potentially, and maybe once things settle down, maybe she'll be able to come back. So I think we know in retrospect that was a good decision that she made, because it wouldn't have helped her. It would probably hurt her even more to be able to just kind of force her way back and get back on the court and make her way all the way back to the U.S. and back to Hawaii, and then be told that you don't have a season. So she made the good decision, and I think a lot of athletes in her position will now have a chance to make a decision. Really tough one, because I'm sure they all want to come back, and they miss school, they miss their friends, they miss being able to play. But when you don't have a definite knowledge of whether you're going to play or not, it's hard, because school is also expensive. Some people are paying for their college educations and full tuition or even half, and it's still a lot of money. And if it's all online, how many people do want to just pay for online school? So there's a lot that goes into these decisions, and it's we're seeing some of the dominoes fall now. We're a few minutes away from 6 o'clock, at least here in the islands. Hope you all were prepared for the hurricane and survived it out well. The hurricane that we were lucky to, once again, and I think we're very blessed in Hawaii, and it's a part of the uniqueness of Hawaii and the mana and the strength that is here that helped us with the hurricane. So I'm glad that I was safe, and that everything was pretty normal here on all the islands. I'm not speaking for everyone. There are people that may have suffered some damage, but I think for the most part we're generally unscathed. Even some people asking for more water. They wish there was wetter. So a lot to be thankful for now, even if football seems uncertain. I think a lot of you out there have been really determined, I think, to have football season, and I stand with you in your determination to have a season, in your just optimism for our season. But we do need to do what's best for the players. So if we can keep them safe, yes, let's go forward with this. But as we know, this is real. Stay safe. Wear a mask. Please like us on Facebook if you haven't. Please tell your friends. We'll be back. Hawaii Sports Fans, we'll be back in the stands. We'll be back doing a bunch of crazy sports memories and making just having those moments that last for a lifetime, like this one right here. I'll talk to you again next week. Let's talk story again next time. Sunday, let's do it, 5 o'clock. Aloha.